everybody, this is the Stormy Poet coming to you with this edition of the Levels of Love Tips. Very glad that you could join me today, whatever time of day it is for you. As I like to do, I like to start a broadcast off with, if you are having any, and people who've been following me know this, if you're having any issues that you're dealing with, as far as emotional issues, as far as depression, as far as any issues where you feel as though you can't go on any further, please feel free to contact me. If I can't help you with the situation, I have a plethora of resources I can provide to you, and I have connections I can put you into contact with, so do not feel like you're alone. A lot of people have actually been taking advantage of that. Shouts out to you. I really appreciate you giving me an opportunity to help you in any way that I can, because that is my job, I feel, here as a human being during my tenure on this earth. Anyways, this is going to be a good show tonight. It's nighttime for me. I know it's probably not for you, but tonight what I wanted to talk about is something that a lot of people have reached out to me about, and something that I've actually experienced myself. I feel as though I wouldn't say it's a new phenomenon. I'll just say that technology has made doing what I'm about to say a lot easier. And a lot of people have expressed their frustration to me about this. And by the way, if you want to email me about anything, my email address is T.S.P at thestormypoet.com. Again, it's T.S.P at thestormypoet.com. Feel free to reach out to me. That's what that is there for. And it's really, people can reach out to me really about anything. I mean, more specifically, what I normally touch on is systematic white supremacy. That's my main topic, but also I do the relationship guidance thing, but really anything. I read a lot of books when I was younger. I have made it basically my religion, so to speak, to read as much as possible. So I have soaked up just an enormous amount of information. Back when I was a kid, not to get too sidetracked, but back when I was a kid, that's all I did. I was the book nerd. I'm really surprised I don't need prescription glasses. Some of you seen my social media pictures, and the glasses I have on are clear frames, and basically those are just computer glasses to stop that blue light from hitting my eyes. So really surprised about that, but really you can hit me up about anything. I have a lot of knowledge. I've soaked up a lot of game over the years. But what people have been emailing me about is basically this term is not anything new. This term is really coined by black people, but now you're hearing it more in the general discourse when it comes to a specific issue with dating, and that issue is ghosting. And ghosting is really nothing new. It's really not a new thing. It's just technology has made it a lot easier. Technology's made it a lot easier in the sense that you don't even really have to verbally speak to anybody. And when you verbally speak to somebody, and you're, flirting or hitting it off, or you're having a conversation and building that connection when you initially first meet somebody, there's a little bit more of an obligation to actually to actually contact you back. And I know that sounds like, why would there be more of an obligation if you talk to them verbally versus talking to them online or text messaging them? Because there's just something about seeing, and this goes back to why I say meeting someone in person versus meeting them online. This is just one of the reasons, but this is why I say meeting someone or actually engaging with someone in person is better than doing dating apps and dating sites and all that. When you first initially meet someone who you're interested in, there's a connection that gets basically formed when you have that initial interaction with them. It's a small connection. It's not, you're going to be with that person the rest of your life necessarily, but there is a connection that is formed. Online, there's not the same mannerisms. There's not the same tone of voice there. There's not the facial expressions. There's not the nonverbal communication for you to really pick up on. and things don't get lost in translation. You can't. It's easier to kind of BS somebody online as opposed to in person. It's a lot more simpler because you're using text, words, and people can't pick up on your other mannerisms. So there's more of, once that connection is formed, there's more of an obligation to contact you. Now, with ghosting, and this is for all the people who have messaged me about that. A lot of people are like, how can someone just stop talking to you? And let me clarify what ghosting means. Ghosting is where you meet someone, whether it be online, you start talking, you start getting to know that person, y'all start trading facts back and forth with one another, y'all are having a pretty thorough conversation, you're trading intimate details about yourself in the hopes basically that you can have a romantic situation with another person. That's the goal, and you're getting to know each other because you're trying to move to that next level. Ghosting is where you get to that level, or you get past that level rather, and someone, either you or someone, completely cuts off all communication from you. They drop off from the face of the earth. And a lot of people are like, how could someone do this? Like, what makes someone, how could someone be interested in you and be so excited and enthusiastic and interested in you and work so hard to get to know you in the initial stages and then just drop off from the face of the earth like they never existed? I have had this happen to me back in the day several times. Not once, not twice, but several times, where we'll be talking, she would be really enthusiastic. Hey, I'm so interested in you. You're a really great guy. You're such an interesting guy. You're such a deep guy. You're such this and that. And then literally, and I'm talking about, and a lot of my listeners have said this too, but I'm talking about, you were supposed to meet up on the date, and they just didn't. The first time meeting, you've been talking for, sometimes weeks, sometimes days, but you meet up on the first date, and you're supposed to meet up on the first date, and they don't even show up. I've had that happen to me. I'm like, hey, I can't wait to see you, and it's the day of, and I haven't heard from them. I'm like, are you okay? Now, the first couple of times I went, I didn't know better back then. I wasn't as wise back then as I am now. But I went on those dates, and they didn't say anything all day, and that's a pattern I notice with people who ghost. Is the day you're supposed to meet up, if you're supposed to meet up, and they're gonna flake, they just don't say anything for the whole entire day, and it's like, we made these plans, a week or two in advance, and you're ready to show up, and you're ready to get to know them, and you picked out the spot, and you're ready to go, and then they just don't say anything for the whole day, and then they just don't show up, and you're texting like, where are you? For a long time, I thought that was only happening to me, until I started reading into it and discovering a lot of stuff about it. And then, especially when people started emailing me like, why do people do this? It's pretty across the board. Men and women do this. Men and women do this. There is no gender that does it more. Men and women both do the same thing. It's not the gentle letdown. Hey, I need to work on myself. Hey, I'm at this point in time in my life. Hey, something came up. No, I'm just not going to even deal with having to deal with you anymore as a human being. I'm just going to disappear and act like nothing happened. I'm going to pretend like I didn't just disappear on you. Well, I've done some looking into it, and I'm making a point to study relationships, as you probably already know. And what I want to talk about is how to deal with those situations. But first, I want to talk about why people do that. Why people do that. Now, people have always had that in them. But again, technology makes it a lot easier. Technology lets you be more cowardly about it. And the reason people do this is for a couple of reasons. Now, the biggest reason that I've discovered is these people, and I didn't really recognize the signs back then, but these people already have someone that they're interested in. when they're real flaky like that and they just disappear, these people already have dudes or women that they're already dealing with. See, the thing is, you were kind of the substitute until the other person got their act right. You were the fill-in until that other person started coming correct. I was actually at an event about a year ago, and me and a fellow were chopping it up about that, and he was talking about this girl that kind of kept him at the wayside, and she was with this other dude, but she would always flirt with him and tell him what a great guy he was, and she didn't ghost him, but she kind of strung him along, and he was that fill-in guy. He was that fill-in guy because the guy she was dealing with he couldn't get his act right. So it's like, I need you for emotional support and to gratify me and to give me compliments and to satisfy me until the person I really want gets their act right. In this case of ghosting, the person they really want got their act right. Either they weren't gonna come through on X day, whenever, and they said, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and come through, I got time free. And they jumped up for joy and they got all gleeful and said, you know what, I don't even care about this other dude. I'm not even tripping off that. I want the person I really want to know that they have my full cooperation. I'm not even gonna try to hide the fact that I was talking to this other dude. I'm just going to delete him from my life completely, and they just fall off the face of the planet. You never hear from these people again. Understand, you're not the first person they've done that to, and you won't be the last, because that guy or that woman that don't act right ain't gonna never act right if they're putting them through all that. And back in the day, I noticed women would do that to me, and then, you know, I'm checking to see if they're still alive. I'm like, are you still living? I mean, are you still did you get in a car crash, or what happened to you? So I go look on their social media, and then they're booed up with somebody else. Not a week or 2 weeks later, after they done ghosted me. You really can't take that personally. I mean, it is what it is. At least you know the kind of person you're getting straight up, right? They weren't ever really interested in you. Okay, you know, be grateful they didn't waste your time. That's really all you can get out of that. You just got to charge that to the game and keep pushing. Now, the second reason is, and I'm not necessarily chastising this because, you know, I've dealt with anxiety issues before in my life. I mean, I live in a racist society. It's fully understandable why I'd be anxious, why I'd have anxiety issues. But in regards to the conversation, another reason people ghost you is because of like social anxiety disorders. You know, they probably were a loner for most of their lives. They either had something happen to them when they were a kid. Ain't no telling what happened to them, and they've never really been sociable like that. It's hard for people like that to actually get out and meet people and interact with them and to have even a real meaningful, in-depth conversation, to have actually any kind of vibe with anybody. You know, they can barely go outside to go to the grocery store. And some people never grow out of that. Some people need help for that. But you're dealing with a lot of socially anxious people in this day and age. I mean, this is the world we live in. It's an anxious environment to live in. And they never actually, they can't really go on a date with you. They can't really meet up with you. So what they do instead is they kind of set up these dates. They kind of set these things up. And, you know, they can interact with you online and can connect with you online and talk to you online. And when they set these dates up, it's kind of almost like a substitute for them actually really doing the real thing. It's like when you watch, you know, adult films and you pleasure yourself, but it's really not. It's not the same thing as intercourse. It's not. It's a substitute. But they do that to kind of tide them over. Look, he was willing. I could have gone on a date with him or her. You know, it's good just to know I could have got the date. And then they disappear. Because they just needed you for that type of validation. They didn't really want to go on the date with you. That's a deep one. That's something to think about. Especially if you're talking to somebody who's really shy and who's kind of like giving you one word answers and they're not really, initiating conversation. They kind of just always follow along and stuff like that. If they do that to you, they got some type of social anxiety disorder or something like that. They got some type of emotional issues that they're dealing with, or mental issues. And they ain't ready to date because they haven't really, gotten help themselves. They're not really right with themselves. And I'm not knocking people who deal with that. Hey, for the longest, I was terrified to speak to women. Terrified. I couldn't get a sentence out approaching a female. I lived in dread of having a conversation with the fly female. That's just how I was. What? My fault. This is how I was. I'm not knocking that. If you're dealing with that, it's maybe time you get some help for that. Because you're never going to have a meaningful relationship. You're never going to have a meaningful, I cannot say that word. What's wrong with me tonight? A meaningful, deep relationship with anybody if you don't reconcile those issues. So that's something you're going to want to address. If you're going through that, get help for that. Reach out to me. I'll give you the information. I'll let you know people you can contact if I can't help you. Now, the next reason people ghost you, and I found this to be true for myself also, is that and this might surprise a lot of people, and you kind of almost have to be like, well, hey, let me give a pat on myself. Let me give a pat on my own back for this one. And when I tell you, you're going to understand what I mean by that. Sometimes people who set these times to meet up or who just disappear, sometimes they just come to the realization that you're too good for them. They have a sudden epiphany that you're too good for them. That, and I don't necessarily mean, oh my gosh, this person is so perfect, like what am I doing talking to them? It's more like, I can't run game on this person. I can't BS them like I want to. I can't manipulate them like I want to. I can't trick them or deceive them or play my normal games like I want to play. This is a thorough, true to the game, honest, upstanding, brilliant, articulate person that I'm going to have to actually step my game up. Sometimes later on, people figure that out. The more y'all start talking, and they kind of just figure that out. Oh my gosh, I'm out of my league. I have to actually step my game up, and I have to come with my A game and my financial game right, and my health game right, and I just can't just loiter around and BS this person and use them strictly for my benefit. Yeah, some people realize that. They say, well, I'm good. Because I've had people ghost me, and man, I look who they end up with, and seriously, I just gotta pat myself on the back. I'm like, you chose the lowest scumbag you can find. And forget all that. Oh, looks don't matter. All that. Forget all that. I'm talking butterball turkey, disgusting, yellow teeth having ass dudes, and I know because they took pictures with them. I'm like, y'all took pictures together? Like, what is going on? Okay, I'm cool. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes it was one lady long time ago. She ghosted me, and then I saw she ended up with like an ex-felon or something with burnt up Sonic the Hedgehog braids. I mean, this guy in and out of prison, and I'm like, that's what you done ghosted me for? Okay, well, I'm straight. I'm good on mines. I'm like, I don't feel so bad now. So sometimes that's the case. So hey, if this happens to you, don't feel all that bad. Somebody chose some backwoods tobacco chewing butterball turkey dude over me before. So it happens, and y'all know my caliber. I mean, come on. I'm not trying to toot my horn, but damn it, toot toot. Now, the last reason that I've noticed that people ghost, and from what I've gathered from my observations of people's dating patterns and whatnot, is that It is someone who is seeking revenge. Now, from what I've noticed, this is the most common one. This is extremely common. Not to sound like an oxymoron, but it is extremely common. People will do stuff like this. People will get your hopes up. People will get your hopes up. They will get you all excited about meeting them. They will get you all glad that someone that you actually are feeling back is interested in you, and they string you up emotionally only to hang you in the end, to hang you by your emotions. These people have been scorned. They've been scorned. They've been hurt, deeply hurt by men and women. This is the case for men and women. They've been hurt in their past. They've had either dudes who have betrayed them and let them down, or women who have really cut them deeply, or they've just had a bad string of women that have just done them dirty. And they do this to kind of take out revenge on people. They get in revenge mode and they say, oh, well, the way I was hurt, the way I was betrayed, I want someone else to feel like this, and this is going to teach all men, or this is going to teach all women. So they kind of get off on that. It's like a revenge job for them, to get you all excited and pumped up, and then just leave you at the bar, leave you at the restaurant where you got reservations for. They like that people can pay them this much attention, and that they can hurt them because of it, and treat you like how those people treated them. This is kind of a way of getting back at all the people who've done them dirty, and they think it's some type of way to reclaim their dignity and their honor. And when in all actuality, they're just being disgusting human beings who don't have enough dignity and enough honor to move past whoever hurt them, and to not carry that on into the next relationship. These people are scorned and battered and sick, if you ask me. Where you haven't dealt with your issues like an adult, and so you go and try to harm someone because you think so highly of yourself as to think that you could never be betrayed or hurt or whatever. Listen, I've been screwed over plenty of times in my past. You still ain't finding me up here preaching bitterness, preaching anger and anguish, and hey, you men need to get your act together. I'm not up here bashing women nor men. Eventually, I matured and said, hey, I'm an adult. I don't need to be playing games and screwing people over emotionally just because people did me dirty. That's no excuse. That's no excuse. Be an adult. Look at what you did. Look at your situations and move past it. That's all you can do. Now, for the people who have been ghosted, and the people who are going to be ghosted, because it may happen to you, may very well happen to you, unfortunately, based off my own experience, I wanted to give you some tips on how to deal with that. And these are very simple tips, very practical, very useful things you can implement. And the first thing I want to say is, anytime you get ghosted, the first rule to remember is don't take it personally. Don't take it personally in the sense that don't blame yourself. If you didn't do anything wrong, and even if you do something wrong, it's still someone's obligation to say, hey, I don't feel comfortable going out with you. You have a nice day. You did this XYZ. I don't feel comfortable going out with you, and now I'm probably going to block you. That's a different story. It's a different podcast. But if you've been respectful and polite, and you haven't done anything egregious, and you haven't done anything super offensive or even offensive, and they ghost you, don't take it personally. It could have been any four of the things I just named. So don't blame yourself. Don't start thinking, what did I do wrong? How could I have done that? It could be any of those four things. You're going to be all right. It's not you, it's them. That's the first thing, because a lot of people blame themselves for everything else someone else thinks about them. Hey, if they wanted to do those 4 things, you could have been the flyest, most beautifulest, amazing, wonderful, perfect person there is. And if they want to do foul stuff, they're going to do foul stuff. There's nothing you can do to prevent that. If people want to do foul stuff, they're going to do foul stuff. Just what that is. That's why you shouldn't take it personally. Now, the other way you handle that, if someone ghosts you and disappears off the face of the map, is, especially if you were going to meet them, and that's my whole thing, is, I was going to meet women back in the day, and they just didn't say anything and just disappeared. I'm like, well, man. So if they do something like that, and don't let them hit you with that I had an emergency nonsense. You can let me know when you're having an emergency. You can let someone know when you're having an emergency. They got cell phones. They got all types of... They need to respect your time. I had an emergency after the fact, the night after. Oh, I had an emergency last night. That's no excuse. Time is precious. Time is valuable. There's no emergency where you can't send a little text message, hey, I got an emergency, I will reschedule with you. I don't want to hear it. But if they fall off the face of the earth and don't have the decency to contact you, do not text them. You can ask a simple, are you okay? But do not call them. Do not text them. Do not DM them. Do not instant messenger them. Do not do anything to contact them any further. And here's the reason why. The reason why is because people who are that childish and cowardly and who don't have the human decency to let you know that they're still alive, they will try to use your words against you to justify what they did. And you don't want to get in that muddy pond with them. So you ask them, are you okay? And it's like, yeah, something came up. And then you're like, is everything okay? And they're like, yeah. And then it's like, okay, did you want to reschedule? I don't know yet. I'll get back to you. And then it's like, what do you mean you don't know? We were hitting it off and we were talking. Well, things, and then they can kind of spin that. I told you I was fine. I'll get back with you at another time. Please quit texting me, or please stop texting me so profuse. They'll try to spin that. They'll try to start up an argument with you so that you get irate and so that you get, kind of pissed off. And you're like, yo, you disrespected my time and you're not even going to make up the time. You're not even going to try to reschedule and have the effort. We were just intimately talking, a day or two ago. And we were hitting it off and had good chemistry. And now you're talking about, well, I'll let you know. Which means, okay, I have to say this. This is a little tidbit of information I want to throw in there. Whenever someone ends the sentence with no, that means no. What they really mean is no. That's a subconscious thing. I heard it somewhere a long time ago, but it's always held up. It's like when you try to ask a lady out and she says, I don't know. Or when are you available? I don't know. No. That means no. I don't want to go out with you. And that's true with men and women. But in that particular, I'm just giving an example. But when someone says, I don't know, they're subconsciously telling you no. So when someone starts acting brand new after they done canceled on you or just not showed up and ghosted you or whatever, do not text them anymore. Do not contact them. What I used to do, is basically I just said, look, if you're gonna send them a text, this is what I used to send. You've been quiet at this time. You've not responded to any of my messages. I want to do the polite thing and not bother you anymore because I don't want to disrespect your privacy. If your next message is not about when can we reschedule, when can we reschedule, just don't text me back. And you have a great evening. or a day or whatever you want to say. Even if they ghost you, there's never an excuse to be rude. You always keep it polite, no matter what. Because, and the reason I say that is because people will get under your skin and try to get a rise out of you so that you can say something out of anger and out of passion, and then they can twist that and say, well, you're the one who's in the wrong here because don't talk to me like that, and don't get an attitude with me, and I don't have to take this. I'm glad I never. They can spin it. That's why I say always be professional, always be polite. No matter what. I don't care what someone did to you, because you need to walk away with your dignity. And they are trying to rob you of your dignity, and they don't want you to leave feeling like you're the better person in that situation. They want to come out of it feeling like, well, I know I ghosted them, but they crazy. They were all rude to me, and I don't want to be with a crazy person like that. And that's in any situation, relationship wise, always leave courteously. Always end things courteously. Always be courteous. Now, the final thing I'll say as far as dealing with people who ghost you is, before you even go into a romantic situation, before you even approach anybody, you have to know your own worth before you even talk to somebody. You have to know your own worth going into the situation. You don't have to discover your worth afterwards. You're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to go into any situation knowing what your worth is. Now, everybody likes to make it seem like, well, by default, I'm a worthy of this and X, Y, Z, and I'm a bad, and I'm this and I'm all that, and I'm the flyest, whatever. And the truth of the matter is, most of us ain't. Most of us aren't. See, most people get into relationships without first taking time to really master themselves. Without first refining themselves mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, and financially. Finances matter. What you're bringing to the table matters. Refining yourself in all those areas matters. Finding who you are and what you were meant to do matters. All that stuff matters. When you explore that and discover those things, and I need to do a separate show about that when I get a chance. But if these are the things you're bringing to the table, and you're bringing emotional maturity to the table, and mental maturity to the table, and financial stability to the table, and intellect and tangible things to the table, if someone ghosts you, you just like, all right, you're lost. I mean, if you're healthy, you're taking care of your health, you're making a conscious choice to take care of your health. You're not irresponsible having a bunch of kids. You're not irresponsible with your sexual practices. You're being mature and responsible. If they don't want that, that's on them. And do you really want to be with someone who doesn't even have the common decency to let you know that they're okay, to let you know why they don't want to speak with you anymore? They could say anything to let you know, hey, I was gonna hit it off with you, but me and my ex, we got back together. No disrespect to you, that's the person I want to be with, but you're a nice guy, and I really appreciate you talking with me. It's that simple. Do you really want to be with a person who can't even do that? Are you really gonna pine after a person who doesn't have the common courtesy to let you know they're not interested anymore? That represents a cowardly, sneaky, conniving, untrustworthy person who's probably gonna be single the rest of their lives because they think playing games and BSing people is the way to go. They get around their little friends who tell them, oh, you all that, and you deserve this, and X, Y, Z, and you all this, and a bag of chips. And any girl who doesn't want to be with you, they're crazy. When in actuality, the friends need to be telling them, you need to get your ass together. The friends I hang with, we check each other. We check each other all the time. Hey, you want some nonsense right now? We check each other. We don't tolerate nonsense. from one another. If we're slipping in any areas, we're like, hey, you need to chill out with that. But they get around their little friends and they tell them that, you all that, you're God's gift to the world, and whatever you bring to the table, regardless of how illegitimate it is, somebody just needs to accept it because I'm your friend and I said so. You really don't want to be with someone like that, whose head has been pumped up and they're doing little slick, foul stuff like this, wasting your time instead of just coming correct and being honest with you. Do you really want to be with that? Anyways, that's been today's broadcast. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for those who've supported my channel, those who've given money, given up their dollars. Give whatever you can to the people who haven't. I'm not expensive. I just like anything you're willing to give. Every little bit helps. I want to get more equipment so that I can get this message out more effectively. And I want to keep doing this for a very, very long time. So help me out with whatever you can. All my donate links are in the description. I hope you gained something from tonight's broadcast. Feel free to check out rootofalllove.com. I'm really going to step up my article writing on there. I'm really going to step up my interview game on there. That's where you can get everything in regards to relationship advice. And if you want to get some additional knowledge, thestormypoet.com touches on every subject there is. I am a poet. I poet my butt off. Poetry is my passion, my life, my craft. What I put my blood, sweat, and tears into, that's over there. But I am an adamant hardcore writer against systematic white supremacy. So please take the time to go over there too if you want to get some more additional insight. Thank you so very much for joining me this evening. If you have any questions, again, my email is getting my websites confused. My email is TSP@thestormypoet.com. Feel free to email me with any relationship questions. I know it all. And I will be getting back with you very shortly. Please take care of yourselves. I'll holler at you. Peace.